So I get into real estate in 1984. I fail miserably for 5 years. So I have a typical real estate experience, honestly. So I'm at an event from a Floyd Wickman Sweat Hogs event is what it was called. So some of you have heard of that. And I'm sitting next to a lady, and she has about 6 months in the business, no closings, no listings, no hope of succeeding. And I'm, 5 years failing. So I remember saying to her, where have they been hiding this? This is real. If we did this, this will work. And this was about sales. And it was really the first time I had ever been exposed to actual sales training. And I don't know what all of that other stuff was, but it had nothing to do with sales. So we sign up and we take that program. It's a 90-day program. 90 days later, she has 19 listings, and I had listings and sales and listings of mine that sold and closings totaling 50. So it was like overnight success 5 years later than I had hoped for, obviously. But we kept retaking that program, and then we ended up joining forces. We ended up being the top producing team of any size for Century 21 in the whole state of Arizona. But along the way in my real estate career, I have had every job except yours. If you are a real estate company owner, I've never had your job, but I've been the bottom agent, I've been the top agent, I've been the men's room attendant, I've been the broker, I've been the trainer, I've been the recruiter, I've been the manager. I've done it all, which gives me a little bit of a unique perspective, but one of my favorite jobs was recruiting. Very rewarding. Maybe I'm lazy, I like it that they come to me, but it's the most profitable job in all of the real estate business. So, I worked for a guy one day, and he had bought my company, the company that I worked for, which was a Century 21, and he had a unique perspective on how to do real estate, but he would only hire brand new agents. Now, I don't recommend that, but that was his quirky little thing. He only wanted to take brand new people, and I was the trainer in his office. And our training program was so successful that we would take a brand new person, brand new licensee, and 90 days later, they would be a top producing agent by anybody's standard. So we had that figured out. So I'm also selling real estate. So he comes to me one day and he says, I want you to stop selling real estate, just do recruiting and the training, which was a pretty big commitment because I already had the real estate business. And I said, well, I don't know anything about recruiting. He goes, well, neither do I, but we'll figure it out. So I trusted him and I decided to do that. Well, very quickly, we did not figure it out. And so it was not able to recruit agents like we wanted to, producing agents. So then he sent me to this recruiting training program. It was pretty good, but little by little, we figured it out and we came up with this system that worked fantastic. Now, in his office, he had a metal filing cabinet. And on the side of that filing cabinet, he had the last names of all the agents in descending order of production. Please write this down. I recommend that you do this. So he has all the names in descending order of production, and we reshuffled the deck based on production each month. But the top producing agent was at the top, the bottom producing agent was at the bottom, and then off to the side, he had another shorter list with also in descending order of production of the agents that had been with us for less than 1 year. So what I would do is we would bring these people in for an interview, and I'll tell you how we did that. Now, this is a number of years ago, but we would run blind ads in the newspaper. Again, he doesn't want to recruit producing agents. He wants brand new agents. So we would run an ad in the newspaper, and I'm not recommending this, but you could do it. And it just said sales position available, earn between this and this. And these people would come in, park in front of the Century 21, not realizing it was about real estate until they got there. And I would interview them and I would ask them this series of questions, which we're going to talk about later. But one of the questions was this weed out question. So I would say, how do you think that real estate agents get their business? And almost all of them would say, well, I guess you give us leads and We take buyers out and we show them houses. I'd say, no, it's really more like telemarketing. You would come in here every day, you would sit in one of those cubicles over there, and you would cold call up and down the street, asking people if they want to sell their house. Some of those people would say yes, and then we would teach you a listing presentation. You would go give that to them, and some of those people would say yes to that, and then you'd get the listing, and some of those listings would sell, and that's how we do it. So can you imagine yourself coming in here every day at 9 a.m., sitting in one of those cubicles over there, cold calling for 8 hours? And most of the people would say, oh no, I would never do that. But a small percentage of them would say, sure, I would be happy to do that. And all of those people, we would send them to real estate school, and all of those people would end up being top producing agents by anybody's standards. Now, my job was, when I hired one of those people, I fired the bottom producing agent on the magnet on the bottom. So we always had 35 agents. So what happened from that is it drove up the per agent productivity so high. With 35 agents, it was the highest per agent production I've ever heard of before or since. And we were the number one Century 21 in the whole state of Arizona, and the number 2 producing office had over 350 agents. So the result of that, and this is the secret, is because the per agent productivity was so high, all the producing experienced agents were climbing all over each other, begging me to hire them, but he would not allow me to hire them, which I think was a mistake, but that was the way he did it. The other thing that came from that is, when all the high producing agents from other offers are begging me to hire them, the top producing agents at our office would never leave. So please write that down. That should be a system you should implement. Now, we had very high standards. I had lots of interviews. And Fearless Agent recruiting, training, and coaching is based really on 3 things. One is my experience of recruiting at a very high level for 20 years. But the other one is, there's a book called Spin Selling. And I don't know if you've ever read that, but it's the best book ever written on sales. There will never be a better book on sales. And it's based on a 11-year-long research study on sales, where they analyzed 35,000 sales presentations, and 2 things came out of that. Number 1 is the results never changed. Number 2 is the results were the complete opposite of everything you've been taught about sales. For the last 100 years, sales has always been taught the same way. And it's, you do a bunch of rapport building, but you show the features, but you actually sell the benefits, and then you overcome the objections. And I don't care how you rename it and dress it up and change things, but that's what all sales training is. So they noticed in the research that there was this tiny group of salespeople who were having astronomically better success, but they were doing something different. They were doing no rapport building. And in the research, they figured out that the more rapport building you do, the less likely you are to make the sale. They were doing no features. They were doing no benefits. They were making no promises. There was no 21-point marketing program or anything like that. And because of that, they never had to overcome any objections, because they weren't getting any objections. So if you think about it, if you're going to meet with a recruit and you're not going to do any rapport building, and you're not going to tell them how great your company is, and show them the features and show them the benefits, what are you going to do? Well, what you do is you ask a series of questions. Now, I'm the only person who's ever adapted the spin selling model to real estate, because it was very difficult to do, but it actually works better in the real estate arena than it does in other corporate sales training. And we have some advantages that I think they don't have. So what you do is you ask this series of questions, and it ends up having the recruit sell you on why they should leave the company they're with without you ever mentioning their company. The recruit then sells you on why they should not join your competitor without you ever mentioning their competitor. The recruit ends up selling you on why they should join you and your company, And when you have the recruit selling you on you, you've arrived. So that's built into it. And then the third part is my Fearless Agent coaching program has far higher results. No other coaching program in the history of real estate has ever had results anything like Fearless Agent. And all of the principles of that also apply to recruiting. So there are certain numbers that every real estate company owner should know or be tracking or at least thinking about. And before I get into all that, so I want you to just write down these questions because these are kind of what I ask people when I'm on a complimentary coaching call. So first is, are you the only owner? The more owners a real estate company has, generally, all things being equal, the more owners a real estate company has, the less productive they are. If it's two owners, 50-50 partners, husband and wife, pretty common, that's great. But once you start bringing on other people, so if you are thinking about opening a real estate company, I would try to keep the leadership team as small as possible. So who else is in leadership? Do you have multiple locations? Is there a manager in each one of those locations? Are you thinking maybe I would have other locations in the future? The secret is each location should be like McDonald's. When you go to a McDonald's, I travel all the time and sometimes it's late at night and it's the only place to eat. I know what I'm gonna get at McDonald's. It might not be the best hamburger in the world, certainly not, but it's dependable. I know what I'm gonna get and I'm not gonna be freaked out by seeing something odd. So you want, if you have multiple locations, your managers should be giving the same customer experience to the agents they recruit. So each manager should not have a different recruiting presentation that's personality based. It should be the exact same presentation. Then it's a real business. So let's take a look at how many agents you had 1 year ago and how many you have now. So if you have fewer agents than you had a year ago and the per agent production is lower, that's a recruiting problem, obviously. If you have more agents now than you had a year ago, but the per agent productivity is lower, that's a problem also. So that's a recruiting problem. Very easy to fix, by the way. So just kind of know your numbers on that. Now, are all the agents on the same split or revenue sharing program or whatever you call it? So you have to be profitable when you recruit agents. So if you're starting your company from scratch, you want to have a profitable situation. So I was talking to a company owner yesterday, and he has a lot of agents. He would like to recruit more than he is, which would be easy to do. But he's got about 100 agents, and he starts them out on a 50-50 split. Now, he's not in some tiny town in the middle of nowhere, but there's lots of competitors that are low fee, low split, that kind of thing. But he does not have a problem recruiting producing agents. So you have to be profitable. And when he recruits an agent, he's extremely profitable. So you want to be that way if you can. So the fewer number of splits, the fewer tiers that you have, the easier it's going to be to recruit. The fewer number of fees you have, so simpler is always better. So I want you to know what your average agent's split is, write that down, per transaction, and the average company dollar you would get. So usually when I talk to somebody, the average company dollar or the average commission is about 2.5% of the sales price of the house, and then the split on that. So we're going to talk company dollar. So what is the total number of transactions that your whole office does for the year? And then the average transactions per month. So you divide that by 12. And then take the total transactions per month, multiply that by the dollar per transaction, company dollar per transaction, and divide it by the number of agents. So I want you to come up with this number, okay? So please write this down. There was a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I don't know if you've read that, but the E stands for entrepreneurial myth. Supposedly, this is the best-selling business book of all time, but he talks about how every business has one metric that if they get that one right and you don't screw every other thing up, things should work out better. So he uses an example of a liquor store. Maybe it would be gross sales per square foot monthly. In your business, when you own a real estate company, it is this metric and it is not anything else. It is the gross average monthly company dollar per agent. That's the number you want to improve and make bigger, okay? So the gross average monthly company dollar per agent. So when you call me, it would be a great idea to know that. If you call me and you don't know it, we're going to figure that out when we're on the phone together. And that's the number I'm going to teach you how to improve, and it's very easy to improve it. Now, you could fire the bottom 50% of your agents, and that would improve that number, of course. The trick, and this is the secret to owning a successful real estate company, is you drive up the gross average monthly company dollar per agent. You drive that number up while you're also driving up the agent count. When both those numbers are increasing, you are getting better and better and more profitable. I want to talk about why the other recruiting programs don't work. So I was a highly trained recruiter, very successful at recruiting, but I worked for a Century 21 that had lots of locations, 800 agents. And in each location, they had a manager that was tasked with the job of recruiting. So the owner would always try to get them excited and jazzed up about recruiting, and he's constantly bringing in all these different recruiting training programs, and none of them ever worked. So here's why. See if this doesn't sound familiar. First of all, they were way too much work. The managers they have 17 number one priorities every day. They don't need more work to do. You, if you're the owner, you don't need more work to do. They were way too complicated, much too hard to implement, and they had too many steps. So I remember one of them in particular. They had step 1, clarify the vision. Step 2 was do market research. We had to put pins and maps and all kinds of crazy things all over the city. Step 3 was analyze and plan. Step 4 was initiate the plan. And then step 5 was reflect and revise. And I'm like, really? If it's ever more complicated than step 1, call, and step 2, meet, it's too complicated. It never needs to be more complicated than that. So targeting seems to be what all these recruiting trainers talk about when they can't teach you the simple skill of setting appointments with producing agents. So that's all we talk about at Fearless Agent. Fearless Agent recruiting requires no technology whatsoever. There is never going to be any additional spending. Once you learn it, it's like a car you never have to put gas in. There will be no marketing that you will need to do. In fact, if you do marketing, it will probably harm your chances of recruiting the right agents. So I want you to know what your competitors do not know. I want you to have what your competitors will never have. So you're going to have a simple step-by-step system that works forever. You will know who is and who is not recruitable on that very first call. That's important. You will effortlessly be able to book appointments with those agents who are recruitable, and you will have a simple, duplicatable, step-by-step presentation, both on the phone and face-to-face, that makes it easy for you to recruit them on the very first call, or on the very first visit, excuse me. So you'll know the only 2 jobs in recruiting that make you any money. You will avoid the 2 obstacles that keep owners and recruiters from succeeding in recruiting. And I will create a unique selling proposition for your company that positions your company correctly in the marketplace, and you will know how to get them signed up on that very first visit. So you will eliminate all objections rather than overcoming them. And your commission structure will no longer define you and your company. There is only 2 jobs that you ever get paid for in recruiting or real estate, frankly. The only 2 jobs you ever get paid for are booking an appointment and getting the signature, signing them up to join your company. Now, there's lots of other things you may have to do, but that is charity work. You will never get paid for that. So remember, it's booking appointments with producing agents or new agents who have a likelihood of being producing agents and getting them to sign on the dotted line in one visit if you can. The next 2 is there's only 2 ways to communicate with agents. One is on the telephone, and the other is face-to-face. Now, when I say communicate, I'm not talking about email, I'm not talking about Facebook, I'm not talking about YouTube, I'm not talking about all these other ways. I'm talking about the only way you're going to book an appointment is going to be on the telephone or on a face-to-face meeting somewhere, and the only way you're going to get a signature is on the face-to-face meeting. There's only 2 types of recruits. There's brand new agents and there's experienced agents. Now, the experienced agents might not be trained, but they've had their license for a while. So you need a slightly different conversation, both on the phone and face-to-face, with those 2 different types of agents. And then there's 2 obstacles. These 2 obstacles keep people from earning their full worth as a real estate company owner or a recruiter. And one of them is, what do you say when they say those things we love to hear them say? They say, oh, well, your location is not quite close enough to me, or your split or your financial arrangement isn't what I was hoping for. So objection handling is a part of that. But you could be great at all of that stuff, and none of it will matter if you cannot manage your time. And for an owner, the biggest obstacle for them, the biggest problem that causes them to earn not their full worth in recruiting is time management. So we work on that very heavily when we meet. So again, 2 jobs, book the appointment. The other is get the signature. And you're going to do that by asking a magic question on the telephone that finds out who, in fact, is recruitable on that very first call. So when you think about it, here's who is recruitable. If I'm an agent and you would like to recruit me, I'm a producing agent, and I am making plenty of money and I love my broker, am I recruitable? No, I'm not. There's no reason for me to leave. Let's say I love my broker, but I'm earning less selling real estate than I wish I was. Am I recruitable? Yes, I'm recruitable. Let's say I'm making plenty of money, but I'm temporarily upset with my broker. Yes, I'm recruitable. And of course, if I'm upset with my broker and I'm making not enough money, of course I'm recruitable. So it's a very tiny group of agents that are really not recruitable. The question is, what do you ask to find that out? So we teach that to you. And then getting the signature and all that kind of stuff when we meet with them. Eliminating the objections rather than overcoming them. So part of that is the skill of being different. So let's say I open a real estate company, Fearless Agent Realty, right across the street from your company. At that point, you have a choice. You can be a little bit better than me, which I can tell you would be pretty difficult, or you could be completely different than me. Well, if your choice is to be better than me or different than me, pick different. Be completely different than me, then they have a reason to meet with both you and me, and maybe they'll just hit it off with you better. So being different, that's a skill that I teach it to you. So think about it this way. It's easy to be different, by the way. You've got the customer, that's the recruit. You've got the product, and that is you. You are the product, not your split. You are the product. And then you've got the process, okay? Now the process is horrible. I have to leave my friends at my existing company. That's not fun. I have to get all new business cards and a new website, and a new this and a new that. That's not fun. I have to learn all your new little quirky policies and procedures. That's not fun. And then the split might be even worse than it was where I'm leaving. That's not fun. The process stinks, but your competitors are selling the process. And I teach you to sell the product. What is the product? It's earning scads more money net after all the expenses are paid. That's the product. So I teach you how to sell them on the product. And of course, the process is what it is, but we don't ever mention it. So one of the principles of fearless agent recruiting is your commission model cannot define who you are. They can't leave the recruiting presentation that you did saying, oh, they're 80-20 or they're 90-10 or they're 50-50 or whatever. You have to eliminate all the objections. So you cannot, it eliminates you competing on leads or location or the split. All that has got to go away. And I'll give you an example of that. You know, I used to work for a Century 21, and my partner, when I went off to be a coach, my partner started managing a Century 21 office. So she would go into a real estate school and stand up and give the pitch for Century 21. Now, every time she's there, the room only holds 35 pre-licensing agents, and it's always full. And she brings donuts because, you know, you got to get people bribed with Krispy Kreme donuts or something. And then she would give the pitch for Century 21, pass out 3x5 cards, say, put your name and your phone number on a 3x5 card if you would like to meet with me. Now, yesterday, somebody from Coldwell Banker was there. The day before, somebody from Berkshire Hathaway was there. The day before that, somebody from Sotheby's was there. Tomorrow, there'll be somebody else there. So each time she would do that, she would get about 5 cards filled out on average. Now, out of the 35 agents in the room, some of them are going to do new homes. They're not going to do resale. Some of them are going to do property management. Some of them are going to work for a corporation where they just need a real estate license. They don't all need Century 21 by any stretch of the imagination, but she would get 5 cards filled out. So I said to her, could I go and give the presentation for you and see if I could increase the number of cards that are filled out? So I go the next time. She said, sure. So I go the next time and I said, hi gang, welcome to real estate. You know, 20 some years ago, I was sitting exactly where you were sitting, and I wish I had known what I know now. And here's what I didn't know. In this group of people, you know, there's a certain percentage of you that are going to succeed. And I use this as a visual. So I held up a visual of the welcome new member list to the local board of realtors. And I said, there's about 200 people on this list for the month of March or whatever. And then I flipped it over, and 85, and I color coded it. I said, now this red group, the big group, 85% of you sitting here will not even renew your license 2 years from today. You will fail out of the business. You will go back to Home Depot, tie on the orange apron, explain to your family and friends how this real estate thing did not work out. Then that little 10% of you that's yellow, you're going to renew your license. Many people will wonder why you did. You will be in a constant state of mediocrity or earning way below your potential. And then that little green group, the 5%, that's the percentage of you in this room that will be successful immediately, and half of you did that by marrying the broker, or your brother-in-law's a builder or a lender, and you couldn't fail if you tried. Not that I'm bitter, right? That was not my story. So here's the question. If you want to avoid what happens to 85% of the people in this room, if you want to avoid failure, if you want to avoid years of earning way below your potential, if you want to be in that tiny 5% that's earning an above average income, then I invite you to meet with me. And all you have to do is put your name and your cell phone number on that 3x5 card, and I'll give you a call, and I'll show you how to get rich selling real estate. Now, I walked out of that room with 15 cards, 3 times as many. And what was the reason? It was because I didn't mention Century 21. That was the kiss of death. I made it all about them. None of it was about me or Century 21, who I didn't even work for at that point. So that's the secret. You make it about the customer. Everything in Fearless Agent is about make it about the customer. Care about the customer. Don't care about getting the listing, and you'll get the listing. Don't care about recruiting the agent, and you'll recruit the agent. Always make it about them. Don't make it about your brand. So if you'd like me to teach you how to do exactly that, think, who else out there is actually teaching the recruiting presentations that really work and making them fun, okay? There's 3 ingredients for us to work together. Ingredient number 1 is you and I have to be a good fit. You have to get my jokes. So if you see the jokes I tell on YouTube and that's grossing you out, not a good fit, okay? But I'm pretty sure we'll be a good fit. Then you have to be saying, hey, it's a pretty good bet that I'm going to be better off with a Fearless Agent recruiting program for my company than without. Third, I have to know that I can help you. So how would I know that I can help you? Well, if you call me at 480-385-8810, I do not want you to text me. I do not want you to email me. I want you to call me, okay? And I will ask you some questions. We'll have a chat, and I'll be able to tell whether it would be a good fit or not and whether I can help you. If I can help you, you are going to get rich. And if I can't help you, I'll tell you that. And I have other ways I can help you without doing a recruiting training program for your company. But maybe I can do an event for your company, or maybe I can be your in-house training program at no cost to you. But anything I can do to ever help you, I'd be happy to do that. So always feel free to call me anytime, 480-385-8810. Oh, one more thing. Think of the one guaranteed result that you would want from our business relationship, and then give me a call. By the way, you can go to fearlessagent.tv and hit subscribe so you get all of our videos that you can use for your agents to help them out. You can go to fearlessagentrecruiting.com, where you already are, whether you know it or not. But always feel free to call me at 480-385-8810 because I want to make you a fearless recruiter. Thanks.